So JSF is planning to be with us for.
Well, what happened is that unlike Richie, I have a life, and I have a boyfriend, and I have a social life, and I added the podcast, and so I forgot that it's 7 p.m. and not 9 p.m. as we usually do.
Well, the confusion really it is Richard's fault. If he lived here in the Eastern time zone, then we could just say 7 p.m.
It's also your fault because after you said I'll be available till 10, I said, 9 to 10?
Oh, I missed the 9 to 10 part. I was confused as to why, because you said something to the effect of, we'll have to rush.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I guess we have a lot of shit to talk about if it's going to take, if we're going to rush in a 3-hour time period.
I was like, how is he only giving me an hour? Does he not know me? Like, what is this?
No, I wouldn't. That's the thing. I was confused, but I didn't put two and two together myself. So
everyone is confused.
I confused things initially by saying, 7 p.m. our time, 9 a.m. Richie's time. So
no, let's just still blame Richard because we're Canadian. We're siblings, Aegon. We have to have each other's back.
This is true. Well, I do have your back. Of course I have your back.
There we go.
So I saw that you asked people for questions.
Oh, yeah.
So I messed up a little with the times and stuff.
I am resourceful, okay?
Let's see what the questions are, because same as before, we know from the Four Kings. So this is from, is this Ike break?
Let me...
Oh, you're the host. I'm not the host. You do the work. You do the work.
Yeah, you're trying to take over, bro?
My bad. I could get used to being a guest, though.
Yeah. Let me go to Twitter. So there, let me see. The first question, well, I already have it written down. We can ask it when Richard comes. Okay. And
all this stuff about the abyss and stuff. Yeah, I saw the other questions, but I was just looking at the thread.
Yeah. Sorry. Well, somebody asked about Ingward, but I'm replying we have a podcast on Ingward already.
Ingward and the Sealers, right?
Yeah. Well, do you know a lot about Ingward and the Sealers?
Not especially.
Yeah, because there's nothing on them. Only Richard knows because he has no life and he... Oh no, I forgot. I can't bully Richard this month.
Why not? Lent?
No, okay, because, I have a patron and there's a goal for if I reach $10, I get a fancy coffee. $20 is the fanciest frozen pizza. And at some point, a certain amount is I will not bully Richard this month. And we reached it.
Interesting.
And I'm oh crap.
So I guess you're gonna have to bully me then.
You know what? It's like the Hunger Games. You're I volunteer.
Yeah, I will be the tribute.
I'll be the tribute. Yeah. But I can't even bully you that much because you have a girlfriend, you have a life. Richard is much easier. Because it's not even bullying, it's just stating facts.
I don't know that I would say I have a life, but I have a girlfriend, so there's that. I don't know if that equates to having a life necessarily.
Yeah, that's one up on Richard, so yeah.
Poor
Richard.
But but now you're bullying him again, so...
Oh my god, this is I can't, I'm trying.
You can't even release this to your patrons because then that one patron's gonna call you on it.
Yeah, oh my god. So okay, so the questions on Twitter, I think we have other podcasts that answer them, but also I asked questions in Discord. Okay, so Princess Pirate. Oh, by the way, you're not in my Discord, are you?
I'm pretty sure I am.
You are?
I think so. I'm generally on a pure offline, though.
You are? Okay. Well, the rule in our Discord is that we're a princess kingdom.
Okay.
So that's why a lot of people have a princess in their name.
But I don't think I do I?
No, I don't think you followed the rules, Aegon. I don't think you read the rules. I don't think you paid attention.
I don't think I read them either. Am I supposed to be, change nickname? I don't know how Discord works.
Well, first of all, you were supposed to make a vignette, which is on the left, and then you were supposed to tell us your best dad joke, at which point we welcome you to the Discord, and then you can pick a princess name, or if you're an artist, you pick a witch name or a wizard name.
Can I pay to bypass these? Is there anyone I can bribe? I did make my name Princess Aegon though, so there's that.
Okay, that's good. That's a good start. Once you're done with your dissertation, you can do the rest.
I'll be Princess Aegon PhD, and then
Princess Dr. Aegon.
Yep. Oh man.
Okay, so Princess Pirate is asking, is Paladin Leroy from Dark Souls 1 a Leroy Jenkins reference?
I think he is. Like it's hard to say because we don't really know the extent to which, or at least I should say I don't really know the extent to which FromSoft in particular is in touch with culture that isn't, East Asian or Japanese culture. But Leroy Jenkins, like that was one of the earliest internet memes, right?
Yeah.
Like Miyazaki talks about being a naming geek. Like let's look up the name Leroy and see if, Leroy name meaning. Except whenever you look up name meaning, it's like always all these fucking numerology websites and shit.
Yeah.
Leroy, also Leroy Leroy. Wow, so many fucking variations of it, is both a male given name in English-speaking countries and a family name of French origin. It is an archaic spelling of Leroy, meaning the king, and is the equivalent of the English surname King.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I suppose it's possible that it's not. But given the spot in which we find Leroy Jenkins, I just called him Leroy Jenkins. Yeah. Given the spot in which we find Paladin Leroy, we find him on a ledge in the catacombs. Mm-hmm. There's only one way, like when you summon him, you're on a ledge, there's only one way out or off of that ledge, and it's down. And there's another ledge there, but then there's a whole bunch of bone wheel skeletons there. Mm-hmm. And so for those who aren't aware, if like you're, maybe under 25 or something and you weren't really, on the internet in like a meme receptive role, I guess, at that point in time, not really sure how to phrase that, but Leroy Jenkins it's a reference to, the World of Warcraft meme where everyone is getting ready for a raid. And I've never played World of Warcraft, but I'm led to understand that raids are very, high-end end game content where teamwork is essential and everyone has the roles that they need to fill. And there was this one player who was off getting something to eat or something while everyone was figuring out what the strategy is for the next phase of the raid. And then they came back as everyone is still sort of figuring out what the strategy is. And I suppose either they were trying to troll their team or they thought, hey, I missed something, or, oh crap, like they must have already started and just yelled, Leroy Jenkins, and ran in and supposedly they wiped and everyone was upset, but then it became, this meme that, one of the earlier internet memes. And it's hard to say the extent to which FromSoft has their finger on the pulse of Western culture, but that was such an early and influential meme, and given the context, the specific spot in which we find Paladin Leroy, that as soon as you summon him, as soon as you drop down a ledge, he's liable to not only run after the enemies that are there, because there's a whole bunch of bone wheels, so, just like Leroy Jenkins.
Right.
But also so you can drop down from that ledge where you summon him onto a ledge right below, and if you are directly on the edge of it, he will basically bounce off of your head and fall down. And if you don't follow him, because, when you follow him, he'll try to stick close to you. But if you don't follow him, he just runs off. Like he literally just runs off and disappears. So if you've never tried that in Dark Souls 1, and, you just picked up Dark Souls Remaster or whatever, try that. And so you can look at that as, okay, they have broken pathing. Sure, that is entirely possible. Right. But I think, given, all those things considered, I bet you didn't expect that I would talk for like 10 minutes about this.
This is perfect. Please go on.
But all those things considered, I would say that, it's probably highly likely that is specifically a reference to to Leroy Jenkins. But he also, he seems to have an interesting story of his own as well, because I don't know if you can hear that. Someone's like knocking on the fucking ceiling below me. But
no, I can't.
Okay, good. But so as you progress through the Tomb of the Giants, you get trolled by Patches, you come to the aid of Rhea of Thorland, and then, you make your way through the darkness of the Tomb of the Giants, and you find yourself in a spot where there's a bunch of arch trees, you're on a ledge, and it's the first sort of brightness you've seen since you've entered the Tomb of the Giants. And as you're walking along that cliff, Leroy invades you. So it's kind of interesting that because he's a paladin of the Way of White,
right?
And I believe according to, is it Sanctus, the weapon he has, or is that the shield? I actually had the Dark Souls wiki open for this reason. Let's see. Leroy. But yeah, he invades you. And it's such, maybe not such a strange thing, but it's very interesting that, so he has Sanctus and Grant. So Grant is the weapon, Sanctus is the shield. And let's just have a quick look at the item descriptions. So Grant says, a legendary weapon of the Way of White granted to an undead paladin long ago. This massive iron can only be lifted by those with inhuman strength, but it is blessed and very effective against agents of dark. And Sanctus, the shield, reads, a legendary weapon of the Way of White granted to an undead paladin long ago. Once blessed with the protection of a white flame, but its power is all but faded so that it provides only slight HP recovery. So I don't know that we've ever even really explored in any of the subsequent games the notion of a white flame.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless that's just faith in general is considered a white flame. But I think it would be more akin to lightning than it would be flame. But yeah, no, I think Leroy's very interesting in that all of these Way of White members were sent to, retrieve the Rite of Kindling. And yet, and this is where we get into all the timey-wimey stuff with how the multiverse aspect of the story works, because when we see Rhea of Thorland and all of these clerics in the Tomb of the Giants after we've defeated Pinwheel, does that mean that we defeated Pinwheel and that therefore they were able to pass, or did they defeat Pinwheel in their world and also get the Rite of Kindling? In which case, why the fuck are they still there? Because if they're there to get the Rite of Kindling and Pinwheel's dead, unless only one person can get it, and that being us, and then we basically screw them in doing so, because at least in the case of Paladin Leroy, he keeps going further and further into the Tomb of the Giants until he presumably goes hollow and decides to invade us.
Right.
Because maybe he discovers that we're the ones with the Rite of Kindling and thinks somehow that by killing us as an invader, he'll get it back from us. So I don't know.
I think you're giving Leroy a little too much credit.
Yeah, he is a friggin' raid ruiner after all, so.
Yeah.
But it isn't, I always find it interesting when you have these characters who are seemingly friendly, or, at least seemingly neutral, and then they just randomly, maybe not randomly, but they invade you suddenly, and it's just like, wait, what changed here?
Right, yeah.
Unless he's just pissed at being used essentially as a foil to the bone wheel skeletons. Is that all I'm good for? Just fucking killing bone wheel skeletons? Although the bone wheel skeletons in Dark Souls 2 and 3 are nothing compared to the bone wheels in Dark Souls 1. They're the worst. Like literally the cancer of Dark Souls.
Did you get the remaster?
I did. That's what I was streaming today.
Oh my god, I'm an idiot, of course.
Yeah, and I'm doing a caster build for the first time.
Uh-huh.
Well, not for the first time. For the first time, like on stream or YouTube.
Uh-huh.
Because I have done caster builds before.
Caster is like magic?
Pyromancer.
Okay.
Although, because, in the early game, there's really you really can't buy pyromancies from anyone. So right now, it's more or less just a Morningstar build. Are you familiar with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
No.
Whenever I'm doing like builds on stream, I'll always give someone in the chat an opportunity to name the build by just saying, so in this case it was the first person is to write the name of my favorite NPC from Dark Souls 2, will, get to name the build.
Oh, nice.
And someone named Lucatil, which, my favorite from Dark Souls 2. And so she named it Sweet D, which is a reference to a character from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And so I made her like horrendously ugly. So it's like a Daughter of Chaos build, but like she was so monstrous that they like sent her away.
No.
Because she was even more monstrous than all the other monstrosities created by the Chaos Flame, or the attempt to recreate the Verse Flame, I should say.
Cool. Thank you.
No problemo.
Okay. The Deep is from Dark Souls 3, but Maglin Amandel?
I go through this exact same thing whenever, I think it's Maglin Amandel.
Yeah, I think so.
That's also one of my viewers, so
cool.
I very much recognize the name, but
awesome.
I always screw up the name too, so.
I wasn't screwing it up, I was just testing you.
Yeah, I'm sure you were.
I knew all along who this was and that this was your viewer, and I just wanted to make sure that you were aware. Duh.
Well, I appreciate you keeping me on my toes.
Anytime, man, anytime. Is the Deep a physical or metaphysical location in your opinion, Aegon?
That's an interesting question. Because I did note, I'm trying to find here the question itself. Retrofil being 2.0.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me find the thread. I don't know. I just like having it in front of me.
Yeah. You just go up.
Because I was thinking about this earlier when I saw this tweet. And, I don't know if this is at all valid or if it is in any way, shape, or form what Miyazaki was getting after with the whole, or, whoever was responsible for writing that. I don't want to assume, a cult of the individual and all that like Miyazaki is the one, true savior of souls, and that anything he does is great. And, cause, you have to give the other people, because it's, he's just one part of a team, even if he is the leader of the team. But yeah, I'm rambling. So, I finally found the thread. Okay.
Nice.
Let me see. Well, there's a lot of questions here.
Yeah.
I'm looking for... Was this from the thread that you initially posted?
No.
Or
the thread?
Oh, from the one you posted about just us talking.
This is just us talking, but it's not the same as Twitter.
It's from Discord.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, my bad. Okay. So the Deep, because I did note that someone else had a question about the Deep. And I just wanted to riff on that. So, there's several of them. So it was Hellrider on Twitter who had a funny question and a serious question. So the funny question was, does there exist Abyss fried chips? I would hope not, because I feel like that would taste dreadful. But we were talking about this on my stream today, and I don't think that undead eat anything.
Wait.
But,
how do you know, though?
Well, because they're undead.
Have you never heard of the Snack Covenant?
The Snack Covenant?
The Snack Covenant.
Which covenant is that?
Are you and Dad gonna have a problem, Aegon? Are you testing me? The Snack Covenant. You offer things to the Snack Covenant by eating them, and then you get things in return.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Are you for real? I thought you were a Dark Souls pro, man.
Which Snack Covenant?
It's across all the Dark Souls, Demon Souls, and Bloodborne. All of them have a Snack Covenant.
Okay, name one.
Sinclair's Snack Covenant.
So you're not talking about in-game covenants.
No.
You're such a troll. No.
It's a thing. I don't even know how. It's a thing that originated because I always eat on stream and during podcast.
Oh, okay. I missed that. I'm sorry.
That was Snack Covenant.
I missed that. I'm sorry. I was thinking you that was like a reference to Frampt, like Frampt's Covenant, because everyone just eats dung pies and has a good time.
Yeah.
until like they realize that they've eaten a bunch of dung pies and they're gonna die.
Hey, it's worth it, man.
Well, because you see in the Dark Lord ending to Dark Souls, there's like a whole bunch of serpents.
Oh my god.
There's a whole bunch of them, but I wonder if that's because. Okay, so here's like the real Dark Souls 1 lore. Because so in the Link the Fire ending, presumably Frampt makes it through. But we don't see him in the ending. We just see ourselves Link in the Fire and that's it. But in the Dark Lord ending, which if you're getting the Dark Lord ending, Frampt won't be at Firelink anymore. And you can't feed items and thereby can't feed poop to Kath, Darkstalker Kath, whatever. So that's why in the Dark Lord ending there are so many serpents, because they didn't die from eating too much poop.
Oh my god, that is so horrible.
Whereas otherwise, think about it, like Frampt is, presumably he's eating some of the poop and then saving some for the other serpents. And then, it's like a cult thing. It's like the like serpent equivalent of like, cult Kool-Aid. Yeah, so I'll just eat poop and die. And that's why you don't see any of them in the Link to Fire ending.
We just achieved the epitome of lore.
Oh my god. What? It's in the freaking game, like the fact that he eats poop. I've been thinking about that more and more after like you brought it up.
I've been thinking about it more and more for months now. I can't sleep, I can't eat.
Serpents eating poop, yeah. Okay, but the original question, we were talking about the deep. How the fuck did I even get there? So we're talking about the deep. So the deep is also reference. Oh, because there was the funny question from Hellride. Okay, so the funny question was, does there exist abyss fried chips? And then I said, oh well, they don't eat anyway. So that's what got us started on that whole tangent. But the serious question was it the influence of Bloodborne that brought out the deep in a water statement, or were there other hints in Dark Souls 1 that the abyss was water-like?
Sorry, could you say that again?
What I think they're asking is that were there any hints to the existence of the deep in Dark Souls 1?
Okay.
And I don't think there really are.
No.
I think the deep is something that, so, as part of this question it mentions the influence of Bloodborne. I think that's definitely part of it. Mm-hmm. That between the development, because, Dark Souls 1, development of Dark Souls 1 essentially led to the parallel development of Dark Souls 2 as well as Bloodborne.
Right.
Because in the Artorias of the Abyss DLC, like that was the last thing that the Dark Souls 1 team worked on before going to work on Bloodborne. Mm-hmm. As evidenced by the likes of Marvelous Chester, who, basically looks like he's out of Yharnam.
Yeah.
But, I don't think there's really, like, you could look at the Royal Wood in the Artorias of the Abyss DLC and see that, like, there are pustules all over the place where if you roll into them, you see like a little bit of liquid, but it's mostly vapor. And the vapor rises out of them. So, liquid can be either a solid as ice, it can be vapor, or it can be liquid. And in this case, I suppose it's possible that, because when you're walking around the Royal Wood, there's all these spots where you can see there's just a chasm and a bunch of slime sort of around it. And, in the chasm itself, leading down into the abyss. But, I don't know. And something else that's mentioned here is Artorias, like Artorias' armor. When Artorias is fighting you, not only does he power up, but he also occasionally tosses like some abyssal liquid at you.
Yeah.
But, it looks more like this would be I don't mean to suggest that it's the same as the pus of man from Dark Souls 3, but the liquid that he flings at you looks almost like pus.
Yeah.
Like it has like a silvery gray look to it. So I don't know that is in any way related to, or that it presaged the deep. But where I'm going with this in broader terms is that 50 dexterity probably the name on Twitter, at 99 Dexterity, wrote, "Do you believe that the deep sea upon which Aldrich ruminated was the abyss?" So I think that's an open question, but that phrase, deep sea, is what, when I looked at these questions a couple of days ago, is what really got me thinking about this. Because, again, so my research deals with the decline of sockeye salmon in the Fraser River of British Columbia and of wild salmon on the Pacific coast of North America more generally, the Pacific Northwest. And one of the things that I'm looking at is not only sort of the scientific consensus of what has happened and what's happened to these fish and how we got into this position, but also, because my field is science and technology studies, which involves not taking for granted that scientists know everything. Right. Like, obviously, I'm not a marine biologist. I don't know 90% of this stuff. You know, I have a clue about 90% of the stuff that they do and that they talk about, but in more, I guess, philosophical terms, you know, my field is concerned with looking at, whereas traditionally in the history of science, it was, how are scientists so great? What makes scientists so great? But in my field, we look more specifically at trying to understand science as it is embedded in society and in culture, as opposed to the more traditional perspective of, why is science so great? How is science so great? Why, you know, because it's thought to exist apart from the influence of society more broadly. And so one of the things that I've learned in looking into all of this stuff as part of my research is we don't really know shit about what's in the ocean. We really don't. Like, it is a completely, you know, otherworldly place, because it is obviously on Earth, but it's such a different world being underwater. And especially in the ocean, where it just goes on and on and on and on. And more than that, it goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And so the deeper we go, the less we know. Because, and so I think, you know, if nothing else, as sort of a way of thinking about it, that the deep sea is distinct from the abyss. At least, you know, my perspective on it is that the deep sea, you know, the coming age of the deep sea, or the deep, is distinct from the abyss in that an abyss is just an empty space. And I suppose if you were a fish in the ocean, you wouldn't know that air is a thing until, or, you know, you wouldn't even know that water is a thing until you discovered air, right? So, so if you're in an abyss, you're not really in water. You're just in an abyss. It's just an empty space in a chasm. Whereas, you know, the deep sea, like, it seems to me that it is very, the terminology is very specific in how it's meant to conjure up an image of something that is distinct from the abyss. And, you know, of course, you have the problem of the fact that mechanically in the game, they're more or less the same. But when, you know, he talks about the age of the coming deep sea, like, that to me seems very obviously, especially coming on the heels of Bloodborne, and considering the fact that Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne, like Dark Souls 2 and Bloodborne, were more or less developed in parallel, or at least they overlapped in development, that, you know, the age of the deep sea is not only, or not merely, a reference to Lovecraftian stuff and eldritch abominations and all of that stuff that we, you know, explored in such great depth in Bloodborne, or were, you know, that was present in such, you know, that pervaded most of Bloodborne. But also it's meant to indicate to us that this is a place, much like the ocean, that we don't really understand. And that in spite of everything we know, because, you know, I don't mean to slag off scientists or science in general, because science knows a lot. And you know, without it, we would not have a lot of the things that make our lives great. But also science is fucked up a lot. And, you know, they don't, what I'm looking at again with my research, at the risk of repeating myself, is that, you know, how aware are scientists at an institutional level, at a structural level, not individual scientists, but how aware are they of the flaws in their method? So one of the ways in which they try to understand sockeye and they try to predict so that they can manage a fishery and say, you know, if very few fish are coming back in a given year, you can't open up the fishery to everyone, because then if you if you catch all those fish before they go to spawn, then, you know, the next generation won't be there. So you're depleting this. So you can't have them fishing every year if they're in trouble, right? If the numbers are low. So what these scientists do is they create these models, mathematical models, to try and predict how many fish are going to return in a given year. And they're almost always very, very far off, because the ocean isn't a fucking spreadsheet. It's, you know, again, it's a complicated place that we don't understand, and that, you know, we probably won't understand for another couple hundred years, until like the ocean is basically everywhere because of climate change and shit. But, you know, I think anyway, and I was hoping that JSF would be here for this so that he could like tell me that I'm wrong, because I am interested in hearing what he thinks about this. But, you know, I think that at least at a very general level, that's the idea that they're trying to get across with the deep, is that it is, whether or not it is specifically a body of water like an ocean is an open question. But I do think that the extent of the fact that it's so unknown is meant, you know, we're meant to think of the ocean and the deep ocean in particular. So like deep on the ocean floor, where the pressure is so great that, you know, scuba divers can't go down there, or you need a special submersible vehicle's not quite the right, special submersible watercraft submarine, fucking, oh my god, I'm so tired. You need a special submarine to go that deep, because otherwise, like, the pressure is so great it would destroy it, right? So yeah, I'm running in circles at this point, but I do think that it's not unreasonable to suggest that that's what they were getting after with the name the deep, and specifically with these references to the age of a coming deep sea.
Right.
I don't know if that answers the question at all.
Well, you know, if you look at like items, there seems to be a distinction between the abyss and the deep, in a way where the abyss seems to be commonly associated with the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, like the silver pendant that says like it deflects the dark of the abyss. Mm-hmm. Or I think the New Londo key that says like it... that talks about
the key to the seal?
Yeah. The key to the ruins, or to the seal, or whatever. Like one of the keys of New Londo, it talks about the dark that's sealed away. And obviously the abyss
key to the floodgates of New Londo, which seal away the 4 kings who fell to the dark. The sealers flooded New Londo to banish the dark race and the 4 kings. The agonizing decision was made with the realization that countless lives and the robust culture of the city would be lost. The victims now roam the ruins as ghosts. So that's interesting in that it does equate, in a sense, the abyss and water, or a flood.
No, but that's different, because that's a flood that was brought on by, I think, like Gwyn or whoever, to prevent the abyss from spreading, just to drown people.
But that's what I mean. So in that sense, like, if a flood of water, and I guess, you know, it's not necessarily true that the deep is a body of water, but if... And I'm thinking also of Dark Souls 2, because we were talking about this earlier in the stream, that in Dark Souls 2, the chaos was sealed beneath frozen Alean Lois, right? So it was this place where they had one sort of type of... I'm not even sure what I'm trying to say. Because, like, in the same way that they used water to seal away the abyss and the dark of the abyss, it seems that in Dark Souls 2 they used ice, so again water, just in a different form, to seal away the chaos. So again, I don't know if that means anything, but
yeah. Well, if you let me talk, Aegon.
Sorry, go on. My bad.
Sorry. Yeah, well, so the abyss is associated with the dark, and there's like the deep protection that says the deep was originally a peaceful and sacred place, but became the final rest for many abhorrent things. And the I don't know, it just seems like they're not related, but it seems like the deep could have been, or maybe still is, I don't know, something really rather good, whereas the abyss is kind of associated with something bad.
Well, it's not necessarily associated with something bad, I don't think, though, right? Like,
well,
that's from a certain perspective within the narrative.
Don't people who like the Dark Wraith, their knights who succumb to the abyss, right, or something, and they have the ability of like life drain or something? Isn't that bad?
I guess it depends on. Again, like just thinking in terms of Dark Souls 1 specifically, that we're told different things by Kath and Frampt, right? And they both, when they're telling you these things, they're both actually very convincing. So yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, but the dark leggings of the guys call the art of life drain a diabolical art. So if it wasn't diabolical, why would their own leggings call it diabolical?
Well, see, I guess where we're departing from one another there is that I don't know that it's necessarily true that the spread of the abyss leads to everyone using life drain. You know what I mean? Like life drain seems to be specifically associated with the dark race, which are led by Darkstalker Koth. So there's some, there's an outside force that's manipulating things there, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? In that, I don't know that, it wouldn't be unheard of to make that leap from, the abyss is bad, the abyss leads to life drain, and life drain is bad, therefore the abyss is bad. But, I don't know that there's enough evidence within the text of the game itself to suggest that the abyss necessarily leads to things like life drain.
Okay, but in that case, what about Artorias? Well, the abyss didn't actually make him like jolly or anything.
No, but he's not human, so of course it wouldn't. Isn't he like a god?
Wait, I'm gonna go to wiki. Yeah. Professional. Where's the wiki? What does his own soul say? Let's see.
I think just basically affirming, the story we heard about him is bullshit. And that he fell to the dark. So, of course, the dark wasn't good for him, but he's not human, right?
How do you know he's not human, though?
Soul of Lord Gwyn's knight Artorias, who was consumed by the abyss. The legend, well, because I guess it is cut dialogue, but the legend that Artorias repelled the abyss only told half the story. It seems that he was defeated and his honor preserved by some unsung hero who was the true victor of the abyss. Well, I guess the first clue, and this is again something we talked about on my stream today, so like I'm just trying to remember what was said, but one of the issues with whether or not people are human is just, there isn't really a great way of discerning which characters are human and which aren't. But I don't think that we've ever been able to kill an NPC player, so a non-playable character player, like another chosen undead, like an NPC that is very clearly supposed to be a player character. We don't get souls for killing any of them. You know what I'm saying? Like the souls are exclusively dropped by bosses.
Yeah.
Maybe there's one or two exceptions that I can't think about at this moment, but and also if you look at the cut dialogue, so again I'm just looking. Shoutouts to darksouls.wiki.
So you're saying that everyone that drops a soul that we can use to either make a weapon or a spell or whatever is a god?
I don't think that they're necessarily a god, but I don't think they're human.
Okay.
Like the special souls, what is it, in Dark Souls 3 they say special beings have special souls, or is that?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just looking for unused dialogue and then Artorias. Because what he says in the unused dialogue is, whatever thou art, stay away, soon I will be consumed. And then he says, thou art strong, human. So, if he himself were human, wouldn't he just say, thou art strong,
Yeah.
But again, this is cut content. So I don't know if you've ever heard the Artorias dialogue, but
I think so. It's been a little while.
It's pretty cool. It sounds like almost like Aldea, how Aldea has like there's one voice, like it's basically a mixture of two voices the way they did it. Mm-hmm. But with Aldea, it's like the Emerald Herald and someone else. But with Artorias, it's just like his voice is, because I think he was originally supposed to be an NPC as opposed to a boss. Mm-hmm. So maybe that would, again, complicate things in trying to figure out whether or not he's human.
Okay, but wait. Whether he's a human or a god, how does that change the fact that he was corrupted by the Abyss and then he wasn't very nice?
Because, the Abyss, humans are dark, right? Uh-huh. So you would think that if you're made of something and like that it wouldn't be harmful to you. If humans are inherently dark, if they're made of dark,
right?
If their souls are that of the dark soul, then, how does something that you're made of harm you, right? Unless it's, a matter of excess, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we're made of water, essentially. But that doesn't mean that we can survive in, again, if we're like 30 feet below water, we're dead, right? So, because eventually you're going to run out of air. So it's obviously not that simple, but I would argue that because, we traverse the chasm of the Abyss just fine. But then New Londo ruins, we need the Seal of Artorias, right? So
yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe
but
you
just said it. You see,
that's further to my point.
No, Aegon. Oh my God, I'm pulling a Richard on you. I'm like, no, Aegon.
Okay.
Oh my God. Good thing I don't talk to people like that in real life. I'd get punched in the face. Okay, but you see, the Abyss kills us unless we have Artorias' ring. Like when we go down the thing.
But that could be, again, explained by what I was just saying, that like we're made of water, but that doesn't mean that we can breathe water, right? So because the chasm of the Abyss that we traverse in the DLC, we're in the past. We're very, very far in the past. Mm-hmm. And so, when we're walking around, it's not fully an abyss yet. It's I think it's called the dark chasm of the Abyss.
Right.
So we're, in the opening to the Abyss, but the Abyss hasn't itself reached such an advanced state such that it harms us when we go in there. So again, we're made of water. So, we're fine swimming in water as long as our head's above it. But, we can't breathe water. So too much of anything really is bad. And so, I imagine that the Abyss would be something similar.
Huh, interesting. Or the Abyss is actually really evil and all humans are pieces of shit in Dark Souls.
Not an unreasonable suggestion. It really isn't. Because like a lot of talk in Dark Souls 3, and like it's weird because the subject of this is luck. But they Dark Souls 3 talks a lot about the essence of humanity.
Yeah. And
so, Dark Souls 3 is obviously 5 years removed from Dark Souls 1. Mm-hmm. But in Dark Souls 1, the idea that they were trying to get across may very well have been humans are bad. But again, because that would seem, that kind of mindset harkens to me back to the, was it the Stanford prison experiments? Where, are you familiar with the prison experiments?
Yeah, the Stanford prison experiments, yeah.
Where they got, all of these research participants to, they assigned some of them to be guards, some of them to be prisoners. And they, I think it was a test of authority such that, like, would these people treat the prisoners like shit if someone in a lab coat was telling them? I might be mixing it up with another study, but essentially that study, as I understand it anyway, is often used by people as a way of suggesting that humans are in some way, shape, or form inherently evil or inherently bad, that we all have the capacity to be bad. And certainly we all have the capacity to be bad, but it's worth noting that that is not an experiment which tests something in nature and I guess this is the same is true of scientific experiments more generally, that you're not testing how something is in nature because you're controlling variables. So really the only thing you're testing is how something performs in your test.
Yeah.
That's it. So like it doesn't necessarily tell you anything about how things are in the actual world. So I would like to think that Dark Souls is sophisticated enough to not have so simplistic a core takeaway from the story, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But, it especially sort of given everything that's happening in our world today, wouldn't be the most unreasonable conclusion to draw from everything. Can we take a 2-minute break?
No breaks.
No breaks.
I'm joking. Yes, of course.
Okay. Because I just got to... we've been recording for an hour, so I might as well stop this one.
I'm gonna send y'all a file in chat, because what I did was I took screenshots of the questions we had on Twitter, and I sort of made like little titles as to how we can talk about these questions.
I'm totally rubbing off on you, eh? You're so organized now. What's up?
I know, man. It's like it's been getting more and more organized.
Oh, you even got like section numbers and shit too, eh?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, 1.1, 1.1, 2, 2.1. That's pretty...
pretty rad, huh?
Pretty impressive stuff. Oh, I think Richard's up.
Oh, Richard's up.
He tweeted, "My computer isn't working anyway." Uh-oh.
Richard!
Tell him to fucking... Doesn't he have a smartphone?
I will fucking kill him. Where is he?
Uh-oh. It was 4 minutes ago he tweeted it.
My computer started installing Giant Update, and I don't know when it'll be finished. I turned on half an hour ago and it's at 20%. Richard, can you...
probably asked him
No,
whether
he can't... Oh, fuck. He can't join us via smartphone because he can't record himself on the smartphone, and I refuse to work with, like, fucking shitty audio.
Well, I'm good to just keep going till he's ready. It's fine.
Okay.